quick. We are a very prompt community, so everybody come sit down. It's time to start. We're a minute late, everybody. Okay, let's go. You good? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
About the people I meet, the car wash on the corner and the hole in the street, the way my ankles hurt with my shoes on my feet, and I'm wondering if I'm gonna see tomorrow. Father, forgive us for what we must do. You forgive us, we'll forgive you. We'll forgive each other till we both turn blue, then we'll whistle and go fishing in heaven. I was in the army, but I never took a trench. Used to bust my knuckles on a monkey wrench. I go to town and drink and give the girls a wink, but I don't think they ever really noticed me. Father, forgive us for what we must do. You forgive us, we'll forgive you. We'll forgive each other till we both turn blue, and we'll whistle and go fishing in heaven. Whistle and a fish, eat everything that they put on your dish. When we get through, we'll make a big wish that we never have to do this again.
On my very first job I said thank you and please. They made me scrub a parking lot down on my knees. Then I got fired for being scared of bees, and they only paid me 50 cents an hour.
Father, forgive.
What we must do, you'll forgive us, we'll forgive you. We'll forgive each other till we both turn blue, then we'll whistle and go fishing in heaven.
Fish and whistle, whistle and a fish, eat everything they put on a dish. When we get through, we'll make a big wish that we never have to do this again. Father, forgive us for what we must do. You forgive us, we'll forgive you. We'll forgive each other till we both turn blue, then we'll whistle and go fishing in heaven. We'll whistle and go fishing in heaven. We'll whistle and go fishing in heaven.
Woohoo! Oh, so good to be with you this morning. Welcome, welcome. One, 2, 3, 4. I'm trying to tell you something about my life. Maybe give me insight between black and white. And the best thing you've ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. It's only life after all. Well, darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, and lightness has a call that's hard to hear. I wrap my feet around me like a blanket. I sail my ship of safety till I sink it. I'm crawling on your shores. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And unless I seek my source for some definitive, closer I am to find. Closer I am to find. Well, I went to see the doctor of philosophy with a poster of Rasputin and a beard down to his knee. He never did marry or see holding me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source for some definitive, closer I am to find. Closer I am to find. Closer I am to find. I love that song. Well, I'm so glad you're here this morning. And I'm inviting you to take a minute to put both your feet flat on the floor, maybe sit up a little bit straighter. And something I did this morning was just take a minute to let your jaw drop and take your tongue that's probably on the roof of your mouth and let it sink to the bottom. And just feel how your face kind of lets go. And there's so much happening in our world right now, good and hard and whatever. But right now, we are right here. One, two, three, four. And
Hi, Fabric. My name's Casey. Welcome. It is a beautiful day, and I hope that means everyone's in a really great mood, because I am. And Maya's singing, which I always love Maya's singing. The band sounds great. So today we're going to be working through another conversation on Sandbox, and our kids are going through Level Up. I have two kids, Aurelia and Roslyn, who are 9 and 6, and I have loved Level Up. I asked Roslyn a couple weeks ago what she thought a leader was, and she said it's somebody who takes care of everybody and shows compassion and is kind. And I love that. So, actually, the kids programming is one of my favorite things about the Fabric community. It's just outstanding. I've loved to see the change that my kids have, and I get feedback on them regularly now about how kind they are to others, and I think that's just a testament to Fabric and everything that's been going on here. So for today, let's see, I don't have my notes. I hope everyone got their Sunday paper. This has all the information about today and what we're going to be going through. There's coffee and water over here. We also have a welcome table, so if you want to talk to Melissa or talk to anybody, you can stand by the welcome table and somebody will say hi to you in a very nice way. Feel free to get up and get coffee, tea, water anytime you need it. We have bathrooms down the hall, and then we also have, there's an all-gender wheelchair accessible bathroom with a changing table. You can follow the signs. If this is your first time here, thank you. You are welcome. I hope you have a very peaceful and thought-provoking morning with us. Like I said, we have the Sunday paper starting in July. We're going to be at the Falls, which is really great. We also have this communication card. So this is good. I have one more plug that I forgot. Please rate us on Google so that other people can find us. Yeah. Yeah, we are looking for 5 stars only. If you want to do 4 stars, we can chat at the welcome table about what we would have to do to get to a 5. 5 stars only. Here's our communication card. The back says to fill out prayer requests, questions, and comments. For the long time, I never filled it out, even though every week we're asked to fill it out. Because I might not have had a prayer request or a question. And then someone, and it might have even been Maya, gave some examples. Like you could talk about how great the band is. That's always great. And you could write some observations. And then Rachel, who's Ian's wife, talked about how she'll like to write how cute he is. So if you don't have anything to say, that's always an option. So on that note, I'm going to do 2 last things. One, I'm going to bring up the illustrious and insightful Ian. And then the second thing is we will release all of our future leaders, all of our kids, to go to Level Up.
Yeah, Ben! Hi. Thanks. Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? Happy Memorial Day weekend. Has anybody been out in the garden? Outside, yeah? Uh-huh. It's been like the perfect weekend to be outside, so really good to be together today. Thanks for being here. I know we're a somewhat smaller group with lots of traveling and Memorial Day weekend activities, but glad to be together today in this space for a little bit. So we are in week 5 of our series we're calling the Sandbox. I'm going to move this just a little bit because we have a friend coming here. We're in week 5 of the series we're calling the Sandbox, and what we've been up to is kind of looking at everything is the sandbox, the culture that we're in, the conversations that we get to be a part of. We're playing in the sandbox, and it can be hard to be in the sandbox, especially when other kids have different ways of playing or different toys, and we're not always good at sharing or whatever. And so how do we get in the sandbox and play in a healthy, kind of way, right? Kind of informed by all that we know and what we believe and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do just a really quick recap of like 4 weeks up to this point. So we started looking at like lines in the sand, right? That there are lines drawn, boundaries drawn, where we say, let's keep them there and us here and kind of keep separate, right? Or there's like the sacred world, and then there's everything else, the kind of secular or whatever world. And these lines in the sand often become the locations of walls that get put up, right? So no longer is it just a boundary line drawn, but now it's become a structure, and we can't even see on the other side of it. We don't even want to approach the wall. We don't want to look over the wall. We don't want to know what's over there, who they are, because that is just scary. And so as we have kind of gone through this series, and we'll get here even more next week, is that at its best, church communities, I believe, like ours, can be located at this location, at the wall that we thought was a wall. Turns out there's no wall. The divide might not be as strong as we once believed it to be. So Richard Rohr talks about this a little bit, Father Richard Rohr, about how the ego needs to divide and separate. The ego wants to divide and separate and draw these lines. The ego wants to put up walls. But the soul longs to connect and unify. So when we go through our life in this way of like recognizing these walls, or maybe not recognizing that they're there, but we've been given these walls, we've inherited walls, that's actually, it can be a kind of a, that can be an ego-driven thing, but really our souls are like something deep within us, in the squishy insides, wants to connect, wants to unify, wants to belong to each other, right? We want to remember who we are, remember why we are. So we talked a little bit about that, and Marlon Hall and his work on salon dinner parties and connecting and eating together and sharing time, sharing space, sharing ideas, so that we can remember our humanity. And then, let's see, so we talked a little bit, too, about how fear, actually, the role of fear, that fear is the one that builds these walls. And over time, what fear does is fear might build these walls and call them something other than what they are. We might call those walls, like, caution. We want to protect ourselves, those we love. We want to make it easy, right? Sometimes fear builds walls and then just calls it tradition. Well, the wall's always been there. The fear will build walls and call it preservation or something noble, right? That we have to keep these walls erected between, but they're not. It's not real. So then we said, well, what if the wall's not a wall and the line in the sand is just that? It's a line. Then we kind of expanded on it a little bit and said, well, there's actually this idea in biological science and ecology called the ecotone, right? So it's from Greek words, eco meaning dwelling, tonos meaning tension, and the ecotone is this biological idea that there are zones between biomes. There are zones where, I'm going to read it here, a zone where ecosystems overlap. It's a space where there's this incredibly dynamic and diverse zone, right? There's the soil in ecotones is much more fertile. You can plant just about anything and it will grow, but it's also disgusting because it gets caught between your toes. You know, it's the example I gave was like going from dry land into a lake. This weekend, Rachel and my kids and I are with some friends up in Zimmerman at a lake, and Raleigh has wanted to swim, and I got to watch him experience the ecotone of going from the land and wanting to get to the water, because land is good, water's good, yuck, 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 in between. So the ecotone is a place of great diversity, and you can plant anything and it will grow. And there's incredible competition. You can get stuck in there. It can be a little scary in there, and yet we need these ecotone spaces in order for diversity to exist. We learned about monoculture being at risk of its own destruction, it's the reason that banana runts don't taste like bananas. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch a previous week. That if we exist in monocultures, all it takes is challenge to one idea. All it takes is one bacteria, virus, fungus, and an entire species, an entire thought group, can just be wiped off the map. It's diversity that actually keeps us healthy. It's diversity that's worth fighting for, that's worth getting grit between our toes and under our fingernails for, right? And it's kind of a side note, but like, I kind of feel like the ways that we've separated ourselves out in so many different ways right now, even in the neighborhoods that we live in sometimes, creates this environment where we stop believing that others even exist. Like they're over there and we are over here. This is that wall, right? Those people, up in Zimmerman where we've been this weekend, that's an entire different species of human than down here, right? And we are coming up here on 5 years since the murder of George Floyd. And we got to see during that time period, people who thought that there was us and them. People that thought there are valuable people and there are expendable people. What happens in communities? What happens for the dignity of others being upheld or not? That there's incredible violence that happens because we have split into monocultures and we've stopped living in the ecotone. Okay, I'm going to move on from that. Because today, I'm really excited. We have a guest with us again. Today, I'm excited to welcome a practitioner of playing well in the Sandbox. He is an artist and an author and an educator, a husband, a dad, my friend. We've been we've been trudging through ecotones together for many years, and so please welcome with us again, Dave Scherer. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Ian.
We agreed. He's also a Timberwolves fan. We won't spend the whole time today talking about the Timberwolves, but good win last night. Yeah. Fantastic. Welcome. Dave, I'm wondering, would you just start did I miss anything in introducing you?
You got it.
Okay.
That was it.
That's all of who you are.
That's it. That's
okay,
the totality.
Great. Sweet. Would you just tell us, though, about your journey into the ecotone, into the Sandbox, like musically, spiritually, your work with anti-racism, your examination of power and privilege, all that kind of stuff?
Oof, okay.
What's been your journey?
Yes, my journey. Well, I grew up in a space where my close friend, who I called my cousin, his dad was black and his mom was white. And so early on, I began to see the effects of racism on human bodies. And so those were kind of those early formative moments. I remember we lived in a predominantly white neighborhood, and I remember getting off on the exit one time, and we were going to a Twins game, and all of a sudden my friend's dad just kind of clicked the car doors real quick. And I looked around, and it was mostly black and brown faces around me, and then the click of the door, and the click of the lock. And the message was very clear, that these are people that you should be scared of. Diversity is dangerous. The implicit curriculum was very clear for me. So those were some of those early formative moments. And then as I started falling in love with hip hop, which was pretty awesome, I started to make a living as a rapper. There's not a lot of white bilingual Lutheran rappers, so it was a small competition.
A lot of mentors in that space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so as I was doing this work, a friend and mentor of mine, he said, Dave, you're doing hip hop music, and the original spirit of hip hop was about giving voice, especially to marginalized voices, particularly people of color, and you're not doing enough of that, and that's racist. And so that was that moment of just like, what do I do? And another friend said, Dave, you walk into the space, every space you walk into, you can be pretty much as comfortable as you want to be, especially in a 96% white evangelical Lutheran church in America, which is where I was doing a lot of my work. And she said, and do you know why you can be as comfortable as you want to be? And I said, no, but I'm afraid you're about to tell me. And she said, it's because women and femmes, people of color, queer folks, they're shouldering the discomfort in the room so that you can be as comfortable as you want to be. And you're able to take up a lot of space in the room because a lot of people are being asked to shrink themselves. And so that was that moment of, you know, again, the language I use in my wisdom tradition is like Holy Spirit 2x4. But basically, it's sort of this moment of, okay, if I'm feeling really comfortable, then I wonder who's not feeling as comfortable. And so then how do I do that? So to keep the story going just a little bit longer, I started creating what I found out later is called an inclusion writer. But I basically said, okay, because I was just going to walk away, be like, I'm done. I'm just taking up space from other people. And the same friend who said, like, you know, this is racist was like, no, don't walk away. Because if you just walk away, they're just going to go hire white guys with guitars. So,
It's
like,
so true.
Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's true.
So he's like, you know, so you need to figure out how can you, you know, create opportunities and hold the door behind you like Michelle Obama talks about. And so then that's when I started. I met a young man who was in college at the time in North Dakota in Minot, and we started really connecting well. And I said, you know, hey, would you come do an apprenticeship with me? So he started working with me, and then we became really close friends and partners in crime, partners in rhyme. So Joe Davis then went on to do, you know, a bunch of good things, and so though it was that generativity that you talked about with diversity, and suddenly it was like, okay, I can either give my sort of monocultural version of this, or Joe and I together can provide, you know, windows and mirrors for people so that people can see themselves and can see other cultural ways of being, and they can see both in it, and different angles of vision, you know, so it's not just one angle of vision. So that's when things really started taking off. People were like, you've gotten a lot better. Like, no, I just have Joe with me now. So that's been some of that. I don't know if I covered. And you said spiritual. Did you say spiritual ecotone?
Well, yeah. I mean, you've talked about the with music and your career and stuff like that. But I think when we talk about the ecotone, when we talk about playing in the Sandbox, I do think it's actually more than just conflict. I think there's these relational ecotones are the easiest, I think, for me to identify in my life. But there's also like spiritual or religious ecotones. I think that fabric exists in or as one in some ways, but there's all sorts of ecotones. You know, there are relational and spiritual, but there's political ones and all that kind of stuff. But I think you've kind of hinted at a lot of that. The kind of follow-up question for me, and you kind of talked about this, that it's the same person that pushed you to examine what you were doing and how you're doing it, that also kept you in it when you were like, I'm good, I'm going to leave, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to take up space in this way. But that it's an external thing. But I'm wondering if you'd share just a little bit more about like what keeps you coming back into these spaces, these sandboxes, when of conflict and growth and adversity and diversity, when it's so much more comfortable to just not, to walk away, to go back to the monoculture a little bit? Like, what keeps you coming back into it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I really love pithy quotes. So if you hear me throwing out pithy quotes, it's just my dad, and when he was in seminary, his professor said, "You've been blessed with the gift of oversimplification." So, so I might throw out maybe one too many pithy quotes, and I apologize. But one of my pithy quotes I like is they say it's not mind over matter, it's matter over mind. If it matters enough, you don't mind doing the hard work to make it happen. And so for me, when I've seen the gifts of diversity, that yes, the more diverse the learners, the more robust the learning, that this is best practice, then that reminds me like, okay, that's the goal. So whatever discomfort I'm experiencing, I know that this is ultimately the goal. One of the things for me personally, as I start to engage in anti-racism work, is to identify the moral injury that happens from being complicit in others' suffering. And I want to be whole and healed and free. And so when I know that I'm complicit in, and I don't say this lightly, but I'm complicit in genocide. When I pay taxes, and I don't know if I'm able to say that at this church or not, but but that's true. So and I'm complicit in anti-black violence. Anyway, there's a bunch of ways that just is not good for anyone's soul to be participating in systems that are harming others. So in community organizing, they say, if you don't do this work, what will happen to you and to those that you love, right? And for me, and if you can't answer that question, then you'll opt out. And so for me, it's both for me and my own wholeness and well-being. It's about my children. I have a 13-year-old and 11-year-old. Chris and I were talking about this a little bit. 10 years ago, almost to this day, I was invited to go down to South Carolina I was just going to go perform and do my thing. But it just happened to be that earlier in that week, there was a youth minister who was distraught, and he kept saying, "We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened." He said, "We had this young man. He grew up. He was baptized in our church. He was confirmed in our church. And for whatever reason, in spite of what he experienced at our church, he fell into white supremacy, and we don't know what happened." And I was buying the narrative. I'm like, yeah, in spite of your beautiful things at your church, that happened. But then I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about, a 96% white church. Yeah. Started thinking about a lot of my Lutheran churches around me and what they look like. And I started thinking, I wonder if it's not in spite of it, but partially because of it, that there were some seeds that were sown for white supremacy. And the culture that he was looking for, he didn't find it at his church. But man, you go to white supremacy culture, and Resma Menachem talks about this a lot, but there are plenty of things waiting for my son. There are cool red hats he can wear, although I don't think they're that cool. There's,
Let's just talk about font selection.
Exactly.
Good Lord.
There's tiki torches. There's symbols. There's signs. There's songs to sing. There's websites. Yeah. There's elders, and
algorithms.
And so this young man found this culture, and he went into Mother Emanuel AME, and he shot 9 of God's beloved children during a Bible study. His name was Dylan Roof. And I feel, for me, I belong to the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and I just think that every single ELCA member needs to know his name, needs to know his story, and to know the Emanuel, the Mother Emanuel Charleston 9, every one of those people, because that's our story. And so anyway, so that's one of the things that motivates me, is I feel like Dylan Roof is in our midst, like a lonely white male looking for belonging. And so it used to be hypothetical for me. Now he's literally in my house. Yeah. And I want him to find new ways of being in that body that is more redemptive, and so.
I appreciate your softness, and like to see that any one of these young people can go many different ways, and that the work we do, what took many generations to get us to this point, isn't going to be undone immediately. I mean, I just think about immediacy and urgency as markers of white supremacy culture itself, and because I can't fix everything that took generations, then I'm just not going to do any of it, right? But the work that we do now, for the sake of the kids, of all the kids, of future kids that we will never know, that. Preach. I think that helps keep me in it too. Yeah. Yeah, and being able to talk with people like you and stay in it, be reminded, hey, get back in. You're on the comfort side. Yeah. We got into this a little bit, but the question I wrote is, as an artist and educator, as a person, who's outside of just a profession, what are some of the skills that you've learned to be able to enter the sandbox? Like, what frameworks have been helpful to you in both addressing fear and staying in it when conflict arises?
Yeah, well, I grew up the child of a product of a single parent who was being harmed by systems of oppression, mostly patriarchy, and so I developed my own patterns in my body, and so part of it for me is being aware of those patterns and that trauma, both with little t and big T, when somebody comes at me and says, "You messed up." And I go into my scared 5-year-old self. I have to have these tools to get me out of the trauma time machine, to take a deep breath, to stand in the fire, to receive the feedback, to maybe not take on all of it, but to at least take on enough of it to feel the feelings, ooh, I messed up. And it's impossible to learn and look good at the same time. So there's another pithy quote. Sorry, but that's not me. That's Julia Cameron.
I don't know how much you all know about the Enneagram, but I'm an Enneagram 3, so learning and not knowing what I'm doing, I am so driven to look good doing it.
Yes.
That felt really convicted by that.
Yeah, so I just have to sit there with egg on my face and hey, you got some spinach on your teeth. You didn't mean to have it, but that thing you said was queerphobic, or that thing you said was racist, and it's okay, just do better the next time. I want to tell you because I believe in your ability to change. I'm not telling you because I just want to embarrass you. In fact, I'm risking a lot by sharing this with you because I think you're going to rise to the occasion and do better. But, and so kind of retraining my brain, okay, this is data coming in that I get to learn from. How do I sit and, either settle my nervous system if I need to do that, or activate my nervous system if I'm collapsing? Whoa. I got so excited, I'll knock this out. So that the somatic skills have been one. The other piece, and this kind of goes along with it, is just the developmental framework. So when I learned the developmental model of intercultural sensitivity, it was developed by some U of M sociologists here in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and they kind of just began to see these patterns as people were in their development. And for me, that's helpful to say, we don't start with Rachmaninoff, we start with chopsticks. And human beings are the same way. And so that thing that you're PO'd at somebody else for, you didn't know it at one point either. You were playing chopsticks at one point. Most of us didn't start out playing with. So for me, that gives me hope. And part of the methodology is we don't hold people responsible for thoughts and experiences that they haven't had yet. So wherever you are in your journey, there you are. Welcome to the journey. And so how can we continue to move people forward? And that's hard work because I know how to be a woke social justice warrior and to get PO'd at people, and holy righteous anger is important. And also what happens, as I was talking to a friend of mine, I was like, man, I showed that person, man, I stuck it in their face and I did. And my friend, who's a black man, said, no, that's not what I need you to do. I need you to move people forward. That's what I need you to do. And if you know that polarizing strategies are ineffective and you still use those, then that's your privilege showing. Because then it's just about feeling good and whatever. So for me, it's really helpful to discern, what is the most developmentally appropriate thing? What is going to move somebody forward? Do you want to be right or be effective? The goal is to move people forward, and we need everybody in this collective liberation movement. So if we need everybody, that means racist Uncle Bob that I don't like to talk to. That means, so anyway,
Okay, fine.
I know. I'm not saying, people are like, I will do anything. What do you want me to do? I'll go march in the streets. I want you to talk to racist Uncle Bob. Is there anything else I can do? I will give up my life, but I don't want to have to, because that will ruin the beautiful family dinner that we have.
The vibes aren't there with Uncle Bob. Man. Yeah, totally. All right, so when you have to talk to racist Uncle Bob, would you be willing to share about what you do personally when discomfort happens, and especially when discomfort feels unsafe? You talked a little bit about the somatic work and being in your body.
Yeah, I have to very quickly ask myself, all right, am I sitting on a couch watching the demons on, or am I actually being chased by the demons, right? Because sometimes I actually am oh crap, But sometimes I'm just like safe on my couch watching the horror film, right?
Yep.
And so knowing very quickly, especially in the body I live in, am I unsafe or uncomfortable? Which one?
Yeah.
And so that kind of initial response. My body doesn't know, and my body's already doing what it needs to do to protect me. It's already activating. But then the second response, there's the first thought and the second thought, or the first bodily response and then the second response. So, okay, deep breath, 5 things I can see, 4 things I can smell, 3 things I can taste, or maybe 1 thing I can taste. Getting into my senses, and just breathing and slowing down. Because I think the most harm that I do is moving too quickly. Like, that's when I really harm others. And so how do I get out of those autonomic responses, get into my body, and be present? That's one of the tools. And then the other one for me is co-regulation. Like, I don't think we're meant to hold this discomfort in our bodies by ourselves. I really do think if we can get in communities that can hold it. Now, I don't dump it onto the bodies of culture around me, or the women around me, or, but I have people like you that I dump it onto, and we can cry together, and we can do some of that emotional labor so that we don't ask others to do that for us. Those are some of my practices.
I even, just this morning, Maya, the way that you had us like plant your feet on the floor, get into this space. Every time somebody tells me to put my tongue from the roof of my mouth down, I'm like, how many hours of the day is my tongue up there? Like, really, What was that? Oh, like actually like shaking your body, yes. Yeah, just like getting in my body and then recognizing I might be uncomfortable, or like that person may be approaching this issue, this conversation, whatever, differently than I do, but I'm not unsafe, I'm just uncomfortable. That's so simple, but like that feels real. I feel kind of ridiculous every so often. My kids wanted to go see Wicked. They got into the music, so Rachel and I were going to take them to the theater. And they knew the music, but they didn't know. So Rachel and I went and saw it beforehand. And there's the scene where like the flying monkeys crash into the window, and they're trying to do the scary Wizard of Oz flying monkey thing. And so bringing the kids there, I remember having them both right by me in the theater. We went on a day when it wasn't packed full of people later in the run of the movie, and I was like, okay, so there's this scary thing that's going to happen. It's not real. It's actors and CGI, but we're safe. So they made it so that like they were able to enter in and like be a part of it without going, nope, never mind, gone. My uncle will not. If Barry ever watches this, hi Barry, he will not watch The Wizard of Oz because of those darn flying monkeys. Like he's like 60-something years old. Will not watch that movie, right? Because the fear the fear in the moment got confused with being unsafe. And every time he watches that movie, he's unsafe. Right? So, I'm curious, Dave.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, please.
So in that moment, another thing I'm trying to work on is to say to my body, thank you. Thank you that you are protecting me right now. Thank you that this reaction you're having has kept me safe, this hypervigilance, this whatever it is. I don't need this part of you right in this moment, but I'm so glad you exist. Because I'm going to be chased by these demons at some point, and I really need to be able to, actually fight the bear or play dead or whatever these responses are that you've helped me with. But I don't need to play dead right now in this conversation about race, because this person actually needs me to show up and be present. So how do we bless those parts of ourselves without demonizing them, or without saying, oh, there I go, having a shame response or a fear response, because all those are really important in the ecology of a healthy self, right? So how do we take those moments to just say, hey, thank you, but I need these other parts of me right now,
I want to just sit with that for a minute, that like shame responses, fear responses, the fight or flight of it all are a part of an ecology of a healthy self. It's okay if we feel those things. Whether you believe it or not, it's part of a healthy self. I need to remind myself that. sometimes. As we kind of wrap up our conversation, I'm wondering, where do you draw courage or inspiration from? And then, like, relatedly, spiritually, what does your idea of, like, God have to do with any of this?
Yeah. Well, I would say, as far as what inspires me or gives me courage, I think a lot of times I look to, I happen to have like black women in my life that are mentors that just help me on my journey. And I think they are very instructive in, like, yeah, what does it look like to have sort of a existential threat to your body and to continue to find joy, continue to, dance and find hope. Because I'm like, okay, if I'm ready to give up, but like if you're not giving up, then I certainly can't give up. So that's one thing that just sort of keeps me going. Another thing, as far as my faith goes, I think just this idea that the Imago Dei, that every person is made in the image of God, and that all of us reflect God's image more fully the more bodies that are present, right?
Yeah.
So disabled bodies, queer bodies, trans bodies, white bodies, black bodies. The more we can fully reflect the divine, the more diverse the bodies. So that's one piece I try to remember, and then these kind of stories of. What my favorite part is, I'll go to churches and they'll say stuff like, okay, so here's what I want you to do. This story of, a brown-skinned, Jewish Palestinian, homeless refugee born to an unwed teenage mother in a marginalized town who was executed by the state. I want you to say that story, but please don't make it political, okay? Like, like, okay, good luck with that.
Totally.
Like, because for me, that is the story, this idea that God, whatever your conception of God, if the incarnation, however you understand it, is saying, okay, I'm kind of like this.
Yeah.
If God is saying, this is what I'm kind of like, then look at the nature of this life and this death and all of this, and then see, there's a preferential option for the most marginalized. And so that means that this work that I do is always to repair those breaches, to be, I call it roof cutter, because there's a story of a man who was paralyzed and his friends, they're inside the house, and the people that are included are so excited to be included that they're not thinking about who's being excluded, and then eventually these other friends that are on, it's kind of an ecotone space, right? They were more outside the house. They were the ones who were able to see the need, and then they were able to say, all right, this space isn't working for everybody. We need to cut a hole in the roof. I have a song about it. So they cut the hole in the roof, right? And that's the work that I feel called to as a person of faith, is to be a roof cutter. And wherever there's barriers, that we're called to eliminate those so that everyone can flourish, everyone has abundant life. So
Beautiful. Yeah. Any other things that you want to say that we haven't gotten to, or otherwise, where can we follow you in your work? And
yeah. So one thing here's what I'm toying with as I think about a community like yours. So there is a very pejorative way to talk about communities that I grew up in. I grew up in New Age spirituality, spiritual but not religious, and it's beautiful. Like, there were so many beautiful things about that. But then I discovered, like, other people that are like, oh no, those people, man, they have what's called a potpourri faith. Like, they just pick a flower here and a flower there. Oh, there's something cool from that wisdom tradition, but there's no roots in it, right? And then there's, so that's kind of the pejorative way they talk about it. And then there would be, like, I'll call it an aspen faith. I don't know if that's a thing, but this idea of a rootedness, but those roots kind of touch other roots, other traditions and whatever, and there's kind of a little bit more rootedness. So I'm just trying to, as somebody who has both been on both sides, so to speak, like the spiritual but not religious, and then my friend Jonathan Runman calls himself religious but not spiritual.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I've been trying to figure out how do we have the rootedness and the openness, and I don't know who's trying to thread that needle. The reason I say all that is because in this work there does need to be rootedness in some community, in some, in my tradition we call it, the cloud of witnesses, like this idea that there were people before me. In fact, I'll just real quick, the Lee House. Do y'all know about the Lee House? It's like what, a couple blocks from here, if that.
Yeah.
And say again? What? Oh my gosh. So in the Lee House, right? If you know this story, there was thousands of people that came to the house with torches. They killed the Lee's dog. They threatened the Lee's family, and so it was white folks that were there doing this. And then there were like some white soldiers who like stood vigil and protected the Lee House, right? I want to be the white soldiers and I want to know them, right? And you see the pictures of the thousands of white folks who are like, get rid of them. But I also want to know the story of those soldiers that stood vigil by the house. And in order for white folks especially to develop a healthy white racial identity, we need to know those stories. And that's, to me, the cloud of witnesses. That, like, I'm not doing this alone. I'm bringing their spirit with me. I'm bringing all of the community that's around me with me. And so I think that's the challenge for those of us who have been raised in hyper-individualized cultures is, what does it look like to, yes, both find truth and beauty in whatever wisdom tradition you can find, but also find a collective identity that's rooted enough that it can carry you when you can't carry yourself. Because there's just going to be times where I don't feel like doing this. And I'm going to show up and I'm going to need somebody who does feel like doing it to carry me in the days I don't feel like doing it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Big round of applause for our friend Dave. What? Oh, Lorena has a question. Are you open to take a quick question while the band gets...
Yeah.
I'm just aware that, like, less than a mile from here, there's a whole commemoration happening today. And I have a white body, and I'm curious how you're maybe interacting with what's happening there today, and
Yes.
if you have some guidance or just some perspective to share about, like, I want to be there, and I don't know how to be there.
Yeah, that's real.
Thanks, Lorena.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a part of a group called White Men for Racial Justice, and this group was invited to come and help Pimento to just set up the space and to serve food and to be there, learning how to guest. I think learning how to guest is so important. White men don't know how to guest very well. And so what do you do when you guest? You show up, you don't just put your feet on the table, you ask, you observe, with a posture of humility, you learn. So I think just showing up with that posture, people, I think, appreciate that. And then, like, if you're not supposed to be there, sometimes you learn that quickly too. And you say, okay, I'm not gonna be there.
Yeah.
But I think from what I've heard, they're really grateful for folks that are willing to come and guest and serve and, help make the event happen. That maybe didn't answer your question, but that's a very specific, with the Rise and Remember events, that's what I've been hearing, so, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
Thanks.
One, two.
There are more people than a heart could ever hold, more places than you could ever see. The scrolling list of these just grows and grows. 20
Thank you, band. You all sound amazing. Big round of applause for the band today. Yeah. As we are preparing to depart this morning, back out into the world, just want to put a couple things on your, in your mind, put it on your calendar. So June 29th, which is forever away and also will show up like that. June 29th is Pride. So throughout the month, we're going to be preparing for June 29th, because on the 29th, on Pride, we are going to, as Fabric, show up in a different way. So instead of coming here at 10:30 on Sunday, June 29th at Pride, for Pride, we're going to, we'll give you more information about this in the weeks to come. But we're going to choose a date, a time, and a location, or it'll be that date, a time and a location to meet if you want to show up to Pride as a community. I'll be there. I'll meet you there. We'll have some fun together, celebrate Pride together. Or if it makes more sense for you to show up in a different way, if you want to go to a different event or do some kind of learning or whatever that looks like for you, we'd encourage that. So June 29th, just put this on your calendars, because I don't want to get there and have under-communicated that we're not here on the 29th. So we're not here on the 29th. Great. Sweet. And because we're we're a smaller bunch today too, after this gathering, if anyone has any capacity to help tear down a little bit, that would be just chef's kiss. That would be so wonderful. So thank you. And with that, thanks for being here. We've got one more song, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Memorial Day weekend.
1, 2, 3. You can hold my hand when you need to let go. I can be a mountain when you're feeling badly low. I can be a street light showing you the way home. You can hold my hand when you need to let go. And I wanna host with a crowded table and a place
great week.
Let's do closer to find with the cake.
Hi.
In the normal one?
Yeah.